Hi, I'm Luke Glendenning, and this is my gorgeous 10-year-old Eastern Blue Tongue Irwin. Let's discuss what to feed her. The aim of this diet is to maintain a healthy body weight and avoid the key metabolic diseases so commonly seen in captive reptiles, those being obesity, gout, and metabolic bone disease. Reptiles are ectothermic, meaning that they rely on their external surroundings to set their internal body temperature. Blue tongue's preferred body temperature is somewhere between 31 and 34 degrees Celsius. Irwin weighs 485 grams, meaning her maintenance energy rate is 18.33 kilocalories per day. That's 128.31 kilocalories per week. Keeping that in that optimal range will help avoid obesity. It's recommended that blue tongues are fed 2 to 3 meals per week. They have a much slower metabolism than mammals, so they don't eat as often. Gut capacity is defined at about 10% of body weight, meaning that we should be feeding Irwin about 48.5 grams of wet food per sitting. That's 145.5 grams per week. The crude protein requirement for an omnivorous reptile is about 25% of dry matter, although some literature says anywhere between 15 to 40%. Fat is about 6% with a range of 5 to 40%, and carbohydrates are anywhere between 20 to 75%. At this point, we should point out that reptile nutrition is a fairly under-researched field, particularly in omnivorous reptiles. Protein is particularly important to watch because squamates, snakes and lizards, excrete their nitrogenous waste as uric acid. That's this stuff. Too much protein and too little water can see this precipitate in joints and organs, and that's a condition known as gout. Reptiles have the same 10 essential amino acids as mammals. However, the dietary requirements are only known for 6 of the 10, so good quality protein is vital. It's recommended that linoleic acid makes up about 1% of the dry matter intake. These are the mineral requirements for omnivorous reptiles. It is crucial to maintain a 3 to 2 calcium to phosphorus ratio in the diet. Too much phosphorus or too little calcium can both result in hypocalcemia. This in turn triggers the release of parathyroid hormone, which sees calcium stolen from the bones to make up the deficit in the bloodstream. This is ultimately the cause of metabolic bone disease and can get pretty nasty. Here are the vitamin requirements for an omnivorous reptile. Of particular importance is vitamin D3. It's vital for calcium homeostasis, and a deficiency can cause metabolic bone disease. It's imperative that the animal has access to both UV light and basking heat, as this will allow for them to synthesize vitamin D3 from a provitamin in their skin. Variety is key to a healthy blue tongue diet, with vegetables making up a majority of the feed. Kale makes up 40% of this diet. That's because it's a great source of fibre, but it's also really rich in minerals and vitamins. It's particularly high in calcium, which is great news for avoiding metabolic bone disease. Parsley is added at about 7%, for similar reasons to kale, particularly just to add variety to the greens portion. Sweet potatoes added at 8% because it's a really great low protein, low fat, high carbohydrate energy source. Meat and invertebrates make up a collective 24% of the diet. They include snails at 8%, crickets at 6%, and chicken breast at 10%. These are a really great energy source and a great source of amino acids that are lacking in the vegetable and fruit part of the diet. But they're particularly high in protein and fat, meaning they're things to watch when it comes to obesity and gout. Crickets are a great fibre source, and they also appear to be a bit of a vitamin and mineral bomb, except they're relatively deficient in calcium and relatively high in phosphorus, meaning that they should be fed having been dusted in a mineral supplement. Lentils make up 3% of the diet because they're a really low fat source of a lot of energy. Plus, they're really high in dry matter, which means they're really great bang for your buck. Mushrooms make up 4% of the diet because they're a great low-fat source of protein, and Irwin loves them. They're also a great source of water-soluble vitamins and selenium. Fruit is the cherry on top of this diet. Irwin's a real sweet tooth, so it's great for palatability. It's a great source of energy that's high in carbohydrate and low in protein and fat. Strawberries make up 7% of the diet because they are Irwin's absolute favourite fruit. They're particularly rich in microminerals, and they're also a great source of fibre. Banana, blueberries and melon are fed at a rate of about 2% each, and should be fed out on a rotational basis across the week's 3 meals. This is basically just to increase variety, which is great for both enrichment and balancing the diet. Reptical multivitamin makes up 2% of the diet. On top of this, we add 0.5% of a homemade vitamin, mineral, and amino acid supplement. These compensate for any deficiencies and help control the calcium-phosphorus ratio. Here is the final nutrient balance of the weekly diet. Balance was achieved using a homemade Excel-based software with nutrient requirements sourced from literature. This balance is sufficient to avoid obesity, gout, and metabolic bone disease, leaving us with a healthy lizard. Thanks for watching.